monthly meeting, and I'll just start it off and handing it off to Rich.
So this is the April report. We are forecasting a year-end positive balance of $685,933. The total changes from the previous month are rather minimal, but 21,646. Just to go over those changes quickly, student interns that we had flagged as a savings at Middlesex, we did need to use to cover the interim principal at Middlesex. That's a reduction. We have some small salary savings total $348. We did talk about this at the facilities committee. We did issue a bid for the library redesign, architectural study and ed spec development at the high school, middle school, and Tokenique. That resulted in a low bid by Silver Petrocelli, which was $15,400 less than the placeholder that we had in the financial, so we did adjust that. Excess cost increased by $1,337. The final reimbursement rate has been set at 80.03%, an increase of 0.03 from the prior month's projection. We have released encumbrance in non-public tuition, so that shows a favorable balance of $16,337 to go placement change. Electricity forecast has increased by about $8,200 just due to some consumption increases against projection. Workers' compensation increased by about $5,600 for reimbursements for employees who are out on workers' comp. And then we have about $7,500 in additional Medicaid reimbursement. The general education RCs have been tracking pretty much the same as previous months at a positive $120,502. Special education RCs are a positive $563,000. And again, that's primarily made up of the increase in excess cost reimbursement due to the higher reimbursement percentage. And then the COVID RC is a positive $1,700 for that total of $685,933. I'm just going through some of the few RCs with changes. RC 12 is Director of Facilities has announced his retirement effective June 28th. So there's a small bit of salary savings there. In RC 16, as I mentioned earlier, consultants now shows a negative balance of $43,679 based on the RFP submissions for Silver Petrocelli for the architectural study, and that is one of the transfers that we'll discuss later on. In special education, as I mentioned earlier, non-public tuition shows a positive balance of $16,337 due to replacement change. As I mentioned earlier, excess cost is about $1,300 more than the previous submission, and that is due to the reimbursement rate of 80.03%. And we should actually get that final dollar amount next week from the state. And that'll close out that for the year. And then RC 25, as I mentioned, electricity is forecasted with a positive balance of just under $4,000, which is slightly less than the previous month due to consumption. And then Medicaid revenue is projected with a positive balance of almost $10,000 as we have received additional Medicaid revenue through higher consents. I can move on to the grant report, or
why don't we just stop there real quick? Just excess cost, you said the final number is going to be, given by the state. What could be the variable there? Is it not much at all?
So they have set the rate at 8.03, so really it should be what we have in the projection now. The last reimbursement comes the last week of May, so next week. Once we have that, we'll record all the revenue, but it should be what we flagged.
Okay.
States recorded.
You have any? Dennis, any questions on that? Okay. The grants.
So not many changes in the grants. The one we did want to highlight is in the ARP ESSER grant. Again, Darien was awarded a little over $1 million out of $1,025,000. We have increased the positive balance to $117,000. As we flagged in previous months, we do have a vacancy in the one-year position for the interventionist, but we have made available some special education recovery costs that we do not anticipate spending, which is about $7,000 more from the previous month. And so that'll roll over into the next fiscal year, as we do have 2 more years to spend that entire grant. And then just moving to the food service financial report, we are showing a positive balance of just over $88,000, which is a $25,000 improvement from the previous month. We are forecasting a year-end balance of about $123,000, which is basically double of what we initially thought we'd have when we started the year. Average daily sales are hitting about $14,000 a day. We do see a little bit of a dip in May because the seniors are out midway through, but overall, the food service fund is performing very well.
Rich, is that performance baseline off a normal year, or is this, because we would have, I assume, adjusted it down because of COVID and now it's better?
So it's higher than a normal year.
Okay.
It's one of the higher profitabilities we've seen pre-COVID. So if you really take out the last 2 years, because
Okay,
One year we weren't in school really, and then the
Right.
other year we were like half in, half out.
yes,
But comparing to a normal year, the average daily sales are higher.
okay,
The profit margins are higher, food costs are down.
right.
It's been much more of a financially benefit to the district.
Okay, and then given sort of inflationary pressures, are we changing anything in the model going forward? It could, whether it's inflationary pressures, whether it's the fact that kids are used to it, maybe more will be using it. What are we
Sure.
thinking for next year?
So in talking with Megan Bendish, who's the director of food service, they're hoping to expand offerings a little bit more.
Okay.
Possibly bringing in like sushi to the high school and other options that might be more interested.
Yeah.
Maybe having more kind of display counters at the elementary schools, things like that. In terms of food costs have risen, but there are certain things that are more higher margin food costs, and so they play around with the menus to ensure that they can still maintain those margins,
Okay,
even with the higher food costs. A lot of the profit that's generated could be through like a la carte sales and things like that.
right, okay, thank you.
And then I guess we're ready for the transfers,
Sure.
right? Yeah.
So there are two transfers we are recommending for approval. The first is one that we've been talking about for a couple months now. It is for $10,000 to cover the deductible for the storm damage from Storm Elsa and Ida. We did want to wait until we got all the money in from Kerma before we recommended the transfer of the deductible. We did get that final reimbursement from Kerma last month, so we are recommending taking $10,000 in health insurance account from premium savings from census changes. And then the second transfer is for $44,600, and that would be to cover the library redesign study with Silver Petroselli. And then we are recommending taking those funds from unused interns at Royal, campus monitor savings that were due to turnover, some salary and step savings from clubs and councils at the middle school, and then the premium savings and health insurance.
Any questions, guys?
Will you remind us what the savings from the census changes were?
Sure. So when we build the budget, we have a set of employees. And so obviously as the employees turn over, somebody who might have been on family insurance can elect single insurance or vice versa. Or if you have turnover where we actually have a gap of an employee from when they left to the new employee, you're not paying that monthly premium. So it's just kind of a change in the mixture of the population of employees who take health insurance and whether it's single employee plus one or family.
Thank you.
Any final questions, Dennis? I don't have any either. I think we're ready for public comment.
We want to recommend it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, I have no problem recommending these transfers.
Agreed.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
We have no participants in person. If anyone in Zoom, please state your name and address for the record log. You could raise your hand. There are no raised hands.
All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn? Second. In favor? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.